Alright, this is my wrap up and conclusion video for Henry Levin. Alright, so things that went well. Henry was really easy to work with for the most part. Um, he, did the program actually on the days he was supposed to. He didn't work out for a couple days, then not work out for a week. Um, he followed all the BLGs to a pretty good, he was pretty good about it. He actually tried, which honestly for me was a win. That he put in the effort and went for it, and took what I was trying to do seriously with him, even though he knew it was for a project. I'm not currently a full-time coach, so he knew it was for part of my certification, but he took it very seriously, which is good. I would say overall, things that continued went well. He stuck to the program, and then because of that, saw the improvements. I think something that before he had mentioned was he was doing much more like CrossFit type training where there wasn't a ton of linear progression because he didn't really do the same movements more than once in a while. So that, I think he found the value in that again. That went well. And he found that he enjoyed this type of training more than he thought. I think because he was a bit hesitant for it. Well, he was unsure that he would enjoy it, but he did, so that went well. The only thing that I said didn't go as planned, I was trying to get him to, this is maybe not a big deal, be more vocal on the CoachRX app, like commenting, my squats felt good today, whatever, specific movements were excellent that day or maybe not that day. That was the one thing he just kept forgetting to do. He wasn't doing it. But everything else he was tracking with well. What did we learn? I learned it's easy to write a program for someone, but then actually implementing it on top of the lifestyle guidelines you give them is more complicated. I don't know. The program on paper itself is kind of just in my mind, you're like, all right, if you just do this, and we can work on whatever things you need improvement on. We can make things easier. We can make things harder. We can cater towards whatever goal you have. But I feel like that's all easy before you have your client enter, and then you have the relational dynamic of sometimes there's things that happen in their lives too, outside of the gym, that affect them in the gym, and affect their training and their sleep and their eating, all different kinds of things. The relationships that they have that affect them, that kind of spill over into their parts of life, which is not a bad thing, but just learning how to navigate more of that. It's a little more challenging than just, all right, here, do this program I wrote you for 4 weeks. It's more of a consistent kind of back and forth as far as what's working, what's not. This didn't go so well, and here's why, because last night so-and-so approached me about this, and then I was up later than I wanted to be because I was on the phone. The dynamic of their relation aspect with a client is definitely something I learned a little more of in the process here. Client learned that he really enjoys this more than he thought he would, and that I had tried to tell him a little bit, that he might even find that some of his abilities in CrossFit would improve if he buckled down on more work like this for longer periods of time and then slowly built um, towards getting back to that kind of stuff. And I think shortly after we did this, he went out and did some open workouts that had come out shortly after, and hadn't been necessarily training to do open workouts like consistently in CrossFit, but he was still doing this just before he had done the open workouts, and said that things like, he had to do high volume deadlifts, and because he was doing high time under tension like deadlift variations, the high volume deadlifts weren't eating him up. Like, he was breezing through them a lot more than he thought he'd be able to. Just overall, his muscular endurance was better because he was stronger. So dumbbell and barbell and bodyweight movements for more volume didn't feel so bad because he had been putting in volume from doing decent amount of reps with a decent amount of time under tension from using tempos. So his body was not so fatigued so quickly. And I think he learned that there was other ways to improve than just kind of smashing the workouts every time he walked in the gym, that he could take a step back and approach getting better at some things he liked differently. Things like using a full body split, or using different variations he wouldn't have normally used, like single leg and single arm variations of squats and presses, and slowing them down and getting very good at them. Improved the things that he likes to do more often, which is move a barbell or dumbbell quickly, and deadlifts and burpees and box jumps and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. He can still do those things, but I think he just figured a way that he's now seeing a path to get better at them that he didn't before, was what I gathered from when I talked to him. So which I thought was really cool. Always like when people have moments that click like that, where they realize that there's another way to do something they like or improve. Game plan moving forward. He ended up moving, and I'm still not in a place where I am coaching at really much of a capacity. So, but because he moved away and I'm not doing any like remote coaching or anything currently, I'm no longer coaching him. I worked with him for a couple months after just the 1 month I had to do for the project, which went well. But I still have a relationship with him. He's a good friend of mine, actually. So, but the game plan moving forward for him was to keep progressing him as far as like bringing the reps down, picking some movements that we could load a little more, like barbell movements, less unilateral ones over time, get the weights down, or get the reps down, the weight up a little bit, and start also getting into some different map work other than just map 10 or 9, which is kind of where we were at. And we're going to do that slowly over time. That was the game plan moving forward for him. Get him stronger and get him more aerobic. But things happened and he ended up moving. So any additional noticings? I think I noticed it's harder to do assessments than I thought, as far as like when I was doing even like body move work, especially move assessment. I feel like you guys had talked about kind of paralysis through analysis, where you're trying to look at everything instead of just one thing, and that's definitely something that I can fall victim to pretty easily. And I feel like I notice so many things that I don't know what to start with, but I just have to focus on like watching a squat first. Let's just watch the upper body, then let's watch the hips, then let's watch like the feet, then the knees, breaking it down so it's not too much to take at one time. That's something I noticed for myself. Same thing with programming. In my mind, I could want to overcomplicate things usually right away, and it makes sense in my head, but I have to take a step back and say, all right, what is the easiest and best way to get them the results they need? move them forward, and not make anything more complicated than it has to be. So I think that if it's simple and effective, addresses what they need to address, and also meets their goals, then that's all around good. And usually when I found that, that's kind of where I got to his program, when I was writing his 4-week cycle he did for the project here. I had started doing it and I was overcomplicating it way too much. Kind of just the paralysis through analysis thing again. And then I just kind of figured out, okay, he has problems with his shoulders not hurting, but he just doesn't have great mobility in his upper back and his shoulders. So what few movements are we going to use right now to address that? Not how many are there and how many can we do, just what couple movements would be good to start getting him where he needs to be. Same thing with like a single leg hinging or single leg squatting, and just having a little system, and making things simple about what can we do now, what's good now, what is appropriate for right now. I think was something I noticed for me personally in my limited coaching experience. If I just slow down and I just try to think what's simple, what's effective, and what do I need to do right now, that gets me a long ways. Then I feel like when I go to write the program, instead of sitting there thinking, what do I do? And it takes forever. I had 4 weeks of programming done much quicker, because I had a good map in front of me on what I should be doing. So that was really probably the biggest notice for me, was if I just got my thoughts more clear and direct, on what I need to be doing and made it simple, that everything kind of fell into place a bit easier.